Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get to a couple questions, first of all, thanks to the three of you for being here. And I did want to offer an invitation to visit the Rock Island Arsenal. It is literally on an island in the middle of the Mississippi River. And we'd love for you to come, especially to see our new Center for Excellence in Advanced and Additive Manufacturing. So I just wanted to extend that if that would fit into your schedules. So just a couple questions. I'm going to start with looking at the make or buy guidance. And it was in September of 2018 that the department released a report that's called Assessing and Strengthening the Manufacturing Defense Industrial Base and Supply Chain Resiliency. Just rolls off your tongue. So the broad takeaway in that is that the report highlights the need to sustain our organic industrial base elements like depots, the ammo plants, arsenals, in a way to address the supply chain vulnerability and maintain some level of workforce that's needed to address the industrial base needs. So one of the great challenges is the predictability of the workload to maintain and sustain the workforce and make sure that we keep up capabilities. In the Army, this make or buy guidance, it's supposed to inform the procurement officers on their decision to use the private sector or some combination of the private sector and the arsenals. I have some concern about how that's working, and so what I would ask of you is, can you discuss how the department is working with each of the services to ensure that their respective make or buy or equivalent guidance or regulations are addressing the needs and the challenges identified in the report from last September?
Now, the report from last September talks about the investments we need in order to bring work back or to invest in critical capabilities, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So the the specifics of each service and the business case, if you will. I can't speak to case by case. I mean, I'd be happy to make available the people that kind of talk through how that decision, how those decisions are made.
Okay.
I think in terms of the Rock Island Arsenal and arsenals in general, and we kind of think about the National Defense Strategy and modernization there, and this report, there are two big opportunities right now. One is, if we're going to bring work back, and there's certain capabilities that are in China, so that would be like at the top of my list.
Okay.
Why don't we make them organic, right? So I mean, that's one. And then the second piece really is, as the Army in particular starts to modernize, we know the surge in industrial support to a lot of these suppliers is going to be quite high. In fact, this predictability, that's another opportunity. And I would just offer we'd be happy to work with the Rock Island Arsenal to pursue what I think there are real opportunities in the future where we're not moving work from one place to another. It's really new work.
I don't know, Mr. Norquist or General, if you have anything to add, I would appreciate your thoughts on this as well.
Well, I know that the Army is paying particular attention to this as it affects the Rock Island Arsenal with the up armor of the heavy equipment transporter and other items. But you raise a good point, which is part of what drives the cost of each one of these organizations is what level do I staff to? What's the level of workload that's coming through my organization? When I visited a number of depots, one of the questions I'd ask them is, I'd say, look, we have these maintenance backlog issues. What are you hiring up? Are you addressing them? And part of their concern is, well, what's my funding going to look like next year? When am I going to receive it? And so when we talk about the point that Congressman Calvert raised about the budget on time, the CR and so forth, those consequences are not just at our level, they're down at each of those organizations who's trying to plan a level of workload that minimizes the cost. And so I think the Army's working very carefully, particularly with Rock Island, to be able to address that. But as a department, the stability of that information for those organizations allows them to operate at a much more efficient level and at a better cost, and that helps protect the department and the country.
All right, General, anything to add?
I don't have anything to add on that issue. Thanks, Congressman.
All right, great, thank you. Just one other question. Obviously, it has been well established at this point that foreign entities willfully engaged in and meddled in our elections during both the 2016 and the 2018 elections. This is a clear threat to free and fair elections, a big concern, I think, to probably everybody sitting in front of you, and certainly a big concern in our nation. regardless of party or political creed, this should be a basic position that we can all agree on, that we need to make sure our elections are free and fair. It's my understanding that the U.S. Cyber Command has already established a track record of working to protect our election, including disrupting internet access for Russian troll factories during the 2018 midterms. This budget requests $9.6 billion to support increased cyber warfare capacity, both offensive and defensive, to ensure we're protecting our country. Here's my question. Could you outline for our committee how this funding will grow capacity at the department to protect our country from further cyber threats and hacks from foreign adversaries? And do you foresee this funding helping provide resources or capacity that could specifically help ensure free and fair elections? And maybe, General, if we start with you and then maybe to the Secretary.
Congresswoman, I think what's a really important point is that probably prior to 2017, we viewed United States Cyber Command as a tool that was used for what we called an away game. A major policy shift that we made in 2017 was to bring the full weight of the United States Cybercom to bear in defending the most important thing to our nation, which is our democratic process. And so you can't separate what Cybercom does in protecting our elections. In other words, in 2018, that was absolutely General Nakasone and the team's #1 priority in the fall of 2018. And as you've suggested, even in this venue, we can say that they had some significant success. And the capabilities that they'll continue to develop will be brought to bear in 2020 and beyond, just like they were in 2018, in support, certainly, of the primary organizations, domestic organizations responsible for elections. But I can assure you that under the Secretary's leadership and his predecessor, our approach was, what's the most important thing right now to our country? Defending our elections. What is United States Cybercom's #1 priority? Defending our elections.
Mr. Secretary.
No, I would certainly echo what the chairman has said. If we decompose the incremental $9.6 billion in the budget and we were in a classified setting, I would walk you through program by program where that money is going. Last summer, a host of us met with General Nakasone. Over the course of 4 months, we went through and said, what are the future investments that need to be made to stay ahead of the threat? What are the capabilities so that we can get after new threats? And then where do we need more capacity so that we can grow this and address, other areas in the department? So that's the level of detail that's within the budget. But for a while they were being not starved, but I think some of the attention being placed in recovering readiness had limited the growth. That's why this year we have it's an over 10% increase in their funding.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.